The authorities are taking emergency measures. The World Health Organization warns of a global epidemic that could reach every corner of the planet within days if the infection continues to spread at its current pace. In a post-apocalyptic world ravaged by a zombie virus, a man enters a room, gathering supplies. Suddenly, his attention is drawn to a refrigerator behind him. Zombies usually prefer dark places. He carefully approaches and listens, confirming there is indeed a zombie inside. The man quietly shuts the refrigerator door and securely seals it with an iron nail. A struggle begins inside, but he calmly wraps the refrigerator with a chain, anchoring the other end to his vehicle. The man knows the zombie's main vulnerability, sunlight, which instantly turns them into charred remains. Rourke hates zombies. His wife was killed by one of them. Since then, he has spent his time hunting the infected or exploring areas where they roam. After each zombie he kills, Rourke marks his shotgun stock. Over time, the marks have nearly covered the entire surface. However, in this post-apocalyptic world, the greatest threat isn't just the zombies, but also the survivors, who mercilessly turn on each other over scarce food supplies. One day, after taking down another zombie, Rourke notices a woman sitting in the street. Thanks to his years of experience, he immediately realizes it's a trap set by other people. At that moment, passing survivors notice her and decide to help, despite their suspicions. One man approaches to check on her condition, but is suddenly shot. It becomes clear that it's an ambush. A fight breaks out between the two groups. Due to the enemy's overwhelming numbers, only the woman survives. The group of bandits, initially planning to loot supplies, changes their intentions upon seeing the woman. A sinister idea begins to form in their minds, but just as they prepare to act, a sudden gunshot rings out. Rourke appears. He quickly takes down several bandits with his pistol, before taking cover behind a car. An enraged bald man with a shotgun charges at him, but Rourke eliminates him with a precise shot. Despite being outnumbered, Rourke's combat experience helps him prevail. The rescued woman quickly realizes she was nothing more than a pawn in the bandits' wicked plans. This bitter realization leaves a mark on her soul, but in that moment, she couldn't afford to dwell on it. Knowing she had no chance of surviving on her own, she decided to leave with Rourke. Their car was hopelessly wrecked during the shootout, and a looming horde of zombies threatened to turn the night into their last. Understanding the stakes, Sam offered Rourke a generous reward in exchange for his help. Though skeptical of her words, Rourke agreed after a brief hesitation to escort her back to her camp. They set out immediately. Every hour was precious, as the darkness promised death. However, despite their efforts, they failed to reach their destination before nightfall. The horde of zombies, as if sensing their presence, began pursuing them relentlessly. Wasting no time, Sam used a radio to contact the camp and call for help. On the other end of the line, Ethan responded, quickly taking charge of the situation. He ordered the elderly and infirm to be sheltered in the camp's safest rooms, while mobilizing everyone else for defense. As the camp gates slowly opened, the tension in the air was palpable. Everyone was on high alert, weapons ready. Rourke and his companion arrived at the last possible moment. The zombie horde was already closing in. Without wasting a second, Rourke began firing, but despite his accuracy, the zombies kept advancing in the darkness. Fortunately, the camp's defenders arrived just in time to cover them. Combining their efforts, they managed to fend off the zombie attack and retreat behind the camp's protective walls. However, just as the gates were about to close, Rourke noticed a tall zombie who seemed vaguely familiar. An uneasy feeling gripped him, but there was no time to think. Despite the success of the operation, news that all of Sam's companions who had gone on the mission with her had perished caused suspicion in the camp. The stranger she brought back with her raised many questions. The camp had always been wary of outsiders, especially lone wanderers who roamed the infected lands and hunted zombies. Such people could bring disaster to the camp. A heated argument broke out among the camp's residents. Some demanded Rourke be expelled, while others believed he had earned their trust by saving Sam. The tension peaked, and the dispute was ready to turn into a physical fight when Sam, trying to calm everyone, told them about the airplane she had found. Her words caused shock. After seeing the photographs he had taken, the camp leader, Frank, announced that if nothing unexpected happened during the night, they would leave the city in the morning on the plane to start a new life. But Frank clearly did not trust Rourke. Despite Sam's repeated assurances that Rourke had saved her, Frank confiscated his weapon and ordered him to be placed in solitary confinement until morning. Rourke reluctantly complied. Before entering the cell, he asked about the tall zombie he had noticed earlier. Ethan, hesitating slightly, explained that this zombie was unusual. It appeared to have developed its own consciousness, making it a dangerous leader for the other infected. Under its leadership, hordes of zombies began acting in an organized manner, launching nighttime attacks on humans and hiding in abandoned buildings during the day. Hearing that the zombies were hiding in a nearby hotel, Rourke made a mental note of the information before immediately entering the cell. However, as expected, the camp's peace was disrupted by an unexpected incident. It began when Ethan, in the surveillance room, noticed that the camera at the main gate had suddenly stopped working. The cause of the malfunction remained unknown, but suspicions grew when the guard on the other side heard strange, unnatural noises. He went to investigate the source of the sound but didn't have time to react, as a zombie suddenly appeared behind him. The attack was swift. While the guard struggled to fend off the attacker, more infected broke through the open entrance into the camp. The second guard, who had been monitoring Rourke, was the first to suffer from the attack. He quickly drew his weapon and opened fire, but unfortunately missed. The sound of the gunshot immediately raised the alarm throughout the camp, but there was no time to organize a defense. The zombies quickly overwhelmed the guard, and he didn't survive. Meanwhile, Rourke in his cell used a tool he had prepared earlier to pick the lock and managed to escape. In another part of the camp, one of the men was trying to organize the evacuation of the residents, but suddenly came face to face with a zombie. The situation was critical, and it could have ended in tragedy. But Rourke appeared just in time and dealt with the zombie. Soon, other armed camp residents joined him. However, when the threat seemed to have passed, it became clear that one of the men who had just been saved had been bitten. His companion noticed the wound and pointed it out. The injured man, realizing his fate, was ready to accept the inevitable, but his only concern was for his young daughter. He entrusted her to Sam, and Frank, the camp leader, with a heavy heart, was forced to end the infected man's life. The next day, according to the earlier plan, the camp began preparing to head to the location of the plane. But when Ethan tried to open the door, he discovered it was jammed. A thorough inspection revealed that the way was blocked by a massive pile of countless scrap cars, completely sealing the exit from the basement. This was clearly the work of the Zombie King, who, using his intelligence, was trying to trap the survivors and continued his attacks at night. The camp's residents faced a difficult choice. Many were paralyzed, unsure how to act. Some suggested clearing the path before nightfall, but it proved nearly impossible due to the scale of the obstruction. Others proposed finding usable cars, but that idea was quickly dismissed. The virus outbreak that occurred 2 years ago had long rendered all vehicles useless. When it seemed there was no way out, Rourke proposed a bold and daring plan. Instead of passively defending themselves and waiting for the next attack, they needed to take the initiative. He suggested go into the hotel where the Zombie King was hiding and destroying him. Without their leader, the zombies would revert to being a disorganized horde, and the threat they posed could be greatly reduced. Although the proposed method was extremely risky, the group had no other choice. After lengthy discussions and careful deliberation, Frank and the others decided to fight back against the zombies, despite all the dangers. To increase their chances of success, they split into 2 groups. Frank led a small team to search for usable cars, while Rourke led the remaining camp members on the dangerous mission to destroy the zombies' lair. The team of 5 reached the abandoned hotel, which they believed to be the hideout of the Zombie King and his horde. Inside, a strange and ominous darkness reigned, making it the perfect refuge for the infected. After a thorough inspection of the hotel, the group discovered zombies sleeping in the basement. However, executing their plan turned out to be much harder than expected. The building had 2 exits, and for the detonation to succeed, someone needed to sneak to the second exit and plant a bomb there. The task was deadly, and no one wanted to take on such responsibility. Unexpectedly, the timid and indecisive Drew volunteered. Taking the bomb, he cautiously crept through the crowd of sleeping zombies, trying not to make a sound. Just as he was about to reach his goal, the Zombie King suddenly attacked him from behind. A deafening roar echoed, awakening all the sleeping infected. Seeing that the mission had failed, the remaining team members opened fire and quickly retreated from the basement. Ethan, covering their escape, activated a pre-installed bomb to reduce the number of enemies. Emerging upstairs, the 3 remaining members took shelter in the kitchen. However, during the chaotic retreat, Chris, one of their comrades, panicked and separated from the group. Soon zombies burst into the room, and one team member sacrificed himself to cover the others' escape, taking some of the attackers down with him using a grenade. Rourke and Ethan managed to escape the building but soon came face to face with another group of zombies. They had no choice but to retreat upstairs, fighting their way forward with every step. The zombies pursued them relentlessly, but thanks to their marksmanship and tactical skills, they managed to break through to safety outside, where sunlight saved them from further attacks. Once they were finally safe, Ethan used his radio to try to contact Chris. Chris's response was alarming. His condition was critical, and all signs indicated he had been bitten. Despite this, the team couldn't leave him behind. Chris had taken the rope that was essential to complete their plan. They had to split up again. Rourke volunteered to distract the zombies so that Ethan could reach Chris and retrieve the rope. Rourke's plan worked. He successfully lured the zombies away, allowing Ethan to reach Chris. However, when Ethan found his comrade, Chris was already unconscious. At the moment Ethan grabbed the rope, Chris began to mutate, emitting loud sounds that attracted the attention of the Zombie King. Rourke, sensing the danger, rushed to help his friend. Ethan was in mortal danger, but Rourke arrived just in time to save him, putting Chris down. In the end, they managed to escape without further incidents, but the mission left a deep scar on all the survivors. Unfortunately, Ethan had been wounded during the struggle with Chris. Rourke, understanding that his friend would soon turn into one of the infected, said nothing. He silently stood aside, waiting for the inevitable. As the sky darkened, Rourke finally said his goodbyes to Ethan, making the difficult but necessary decision. After that, Rourke successfully descended to the ground using the rope, but by then the sun had already set. Soon zombies began emerging, taking advantage of the protective cover of darkness. Meanwhile, the other team, searching for vehicles, managed to find only a small car that clearly couldn't fit everyone. Duggan, known for his selfishness, suggested abandoning the others and escaping with just the pilot. However, his request was firmly rejected. The rest of the team condemned his selfishness, and a heated argument broke out. The fiery discussion was abruptly interrupted when they noticed their comrades returning with a large bus. Everyone thought they were finally saved, but their relief was short-lived. Along with Rourke, a massive zombie horde had approached the camp. The fighters immediately opened fire to try to stop the infected, but their numbers were overwhelming. As night fell, it became clear they couldn't hold the defenses, and the survivors were forced to retreat back into the camp. The zombie horde, led by the Zombie King, pursued them relentlessly. The survivors ran upstairs, frantically trying to barricade the doors to stop further attacks. Although they managed to temporarily strengthen their defenses, no one was sure they could survive the night. Panic engulfed everyone. Frank blamed Rourke for Ethan's death but realized that arguing now was pointless. They had to unite to survive. Frank and his team quickly devised a plan. They would defend the camp gates and fight the zombies until dawn. Before the battle began, Rourke revealed his secret to Sam. He told her that he had come to this city with one purpose: to avenge his wife, who had been killed by the Zombie King. Upon hearing this, Sam offered to help him fight, but Rourke refused. He explained that her mission was far more important. She had to ensure the safety of the elderly and weaker residents in the camp. Rourke went alone to the doors just as the zombies broke into the building. He immediately opened fire, holding back the first wave of infected, but another wave followed close behind. Throwing a grenade, he managed to retreat upstairs. Meanwhile, the other camp members fought the zombies one after another, but the number of attackers continued to grow. The battle dragged on. Despite fear and exhaustion, no one gave up. Every minute of resistance bought time for the others to survive. However, the losses were catastrophic. Most of the fighters sacrificed themselves for the greater good, leaving only a few survivors. By dawn, most of the undead had been eliminated, but the Zombie King and his followers still posed a major threat. When Rourke arrived, Frank had already fallen in battle, surrounded by a few dangerous zombies. The Zombie King ordered his minions to pursue Rourke, forcing him into a fight. Using his weapons, Rourke managed to eliminate several zombies, but one nearly caught him off guard. With incredible agility, Rourke escaped, though his strength was fading. Finally, Rourke faced the Zombie King himself. The enemy was incredibly strong and intelligent. The Zombie King knocked Rourke down, forcing him to drop his weapon. Realizing he couldn't win in direct combat, Rourke ran toward the stairs, intending to lure the Zombie King onto the rooftop. The Zombie King, despite his intelligence, failed to notice that dawn had arrived. As soon as they reached the rooftop, Rourke suddenly flung the door open. The sunlight burst through, and within seconds, the Zombie King was reduced to charred remains. Rourke had finally achieved his revenge, but instead of leaving with the others on the airplane, he chose to walk his own path. Rourke left the camp, heading into the unknown, continuing his fight against the zombies until his mission was truly complete. And that's where the movie ends. Thank you for watching until the end.